Welcome to the B-Sides and Beers podcast.
Welcome to B-Sides and Beers episode 19. Tonight we're focusing on rock dads, our look on fatherhood and raising the next generation of rock fans. Our guest tonight is Trevor Hovdebo, a longtime friend and former singer frontman for our late 90s to mid 2000s band Think Not Think. How the hell are we doing tonight?
Doing good.
Awesome, man. That was a UFC introduction. That was impressive.
We're
roll that tape.
Got to be professional,
phenomenal.
right? Got to be professional. Step our game up a little bit, right?
No doubt. No doubt.
There we go.
Enough of this amateur
I got a bunch
bullshit.
of
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I got a bunch of promotions that I'm gonna do talking about being professional.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Are they going to pay us, or what's going on?
Well, we'll see. I'm gonna sell out hard, and then we'll see if there's any payoff.
We're going to have to start writing ads and getting some revenue going here.
Right.
So what are we drinking tonight?
Flip.
Oh, you want me to go first? All right.
Yeah.
This is, it was kind of like yours last week, Dane. This one is from Slackwater Brewing, and it's out of Penticton. And it's called the Idleback Amber Ale. And I went to this place like 2 times because I had families down in Penticton that I would visit. And it was just opened up like 2019. So I only went there like 2 times. But they had like 50 taps in there and just like different things on tap. And then I found out that this guy used to work at Parallel 49.
Cool.
And like a couple other
There
breweries.
you go.
So anyways, that's yeah. So they bottled it or canned it, and I don't know, they got a bunch of them. So this is the first one, the Amber Ale. So, and it's good. It's good.
Sweet.
Yep.
Something different. Amber ales are nice. It's a nice switch up from like an IPA or a pale ale.
Yeah.
Or,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's not as hoppy.
Got it.
Trev?
I'm tackling a near beer, Heineken. So I'm working on the 0.00% alcohol tonight.
Partying it up.
Nice, man.
Partying it up. And it's got the same classic taste with none of the alcohol.
Heineken makes a good one. That's like one of the best ones, I think, for the non-alcoholic.
Is it
beer.
the only
Totally.
one that
Oh, man.
actually tastes like beer? Because a lot of them are fucking shite.
True. It's
Garbage,
very
yeah.
true. And actually the Heineken one has its signature skunky,
Yeah.
skunky
Yeah.
funky, right? But it's a go-to when you're traveling. It's a go-to when you're on the 0.00 train. So
Yeah.
How long have you been rolling on that train? Is it a recent thing or?
since May.
Oh,
Since
wow.
May. So
Nice.
with all things COVID, there was a bunch of things that I wanted to stay on top of, and I'm actually changed kind of my career path in early 2020.
Yep.
And it's been interesting on how that's all kind of played out, and it's gave me some time to build my skills face to face with people and that, because we're connecting in a different way.
Yep.
Right on, man.
Yeah, so
Sweet.
it's
That's
life's
awesome.
changing pretty hard right now, and I just wanted to be able to engage it with everything that I got. Like probably the last time you guys see me, I was building fire trucks and working in that industry. Well, I kept that career going, but kind of as a secondary career to safety.
Okay.
And when we moved through it, I recently built 2 big industrial fire trucks for a company in Alberta, and it was a pretty awesome experience. So again, it was like trying to stay focused on big projects and working through it, and glad to be able to hang out with the family and, deal with it. So
Nice.
cheers and thanks for having me.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for coming out.
Man.
Sweet, man. Cheers.
Dane, what do you got going on?
All right. I'm going to follow that sentiment up with some promotions.
Beauty. Let's do it.
No, I'm joking. But seriously, I'm repping the island tonight big time. So right now I'm drinking a Driftwood Arcus. This is like my go-to Pilsner. It's delicious. It's almost like it's got a herbal taste to it almost.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like a real kind of a light Pilsner, as like a Pils should be, but it's got like a really sort of distinct kind of herbal taste, which I really dig.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then when I'm done that, I'm going to go to Ace Brewery out of Courtney. Got a Wingman Pale Ale. That's going to be delicious. And then out of Parksville, actually, there's a brewery called Mount Aerosmith, which is awesome. And they got a really good blonde ale, which I'm going to devour.
Quite the power
place.
place.
Nice.
Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
place in Parksville, does that have a restaurant or is it just a brewery?
I think they have. I've been there a couple times, and it's a really nice brewery. It's kind of just a small, like, cool, casual place, and they got like noches, like snacks.
Yeah. But they have
but I
like a
think the
storefront, right? Like they have a place that you can go into.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You can sit down.
Yeah.
On
Yeah.
the east
You can
side
sit
of the
down.
highway.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. Because,
Yeah.
okay. That's what I thought,
Yeah.
where I thought it was. But okay. That
Kind of
makes
like,
sense.
it looks like that old trading post or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like right. I guess it's still in Parksville, but it feels like it's out kind of in like an industrial area.
Yeah.
And it's like a real cool place. And there's usually like a kid full of tattoos, like working the taps, and you can go get a pretzel and a pint of whatever they got going. And yeah, it's nice.
Sweet.
I really like it.
Awesome.
Yeah. One last thing. Check out My Teacher Drinks. My good buddy Brian Chapman has got a YouTube channel, and he's pretty awesome. He's like, I would call a professional bartender, most definitely. So yeah, check
It's
it out.
called what again? Sorry, My
This is-
Teacher Drinks or My Teacher's Drinks?
My teacher
My
drinks.
Teacher Drinks. Cool.
Yeah. So it's all about like making proper like cocktails, how to do it like super
Fine art
nice.
bartending.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice.
All
So
that good stuff
is
to
it
do when-
bartending or mixology?
It's like mixology. It's like how to do it right. Take the peel and do the thing and like make it super nice kind of
Cool.
stuff.
It's like drinking made easy.
Uh,
You're
Exactly.
just talking about drinking made easy. Yeah.
There you go. There you
I
go.
actually took that course just off of White Avenue in 1997 for $1,000.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
That
How
was
long
pre-
was that course?
It was 2 weeks, and you drank your face off pretty much 10 days straight, mixing cocktails and trying to remember how everything went. And they had the fancy drink thing all the way down to slinging drinks for money.
Nice.
Cocktail
Wow.
style.
Cocktail style.
I'm pretty sure that's going to be my my post-retirement job will be bartending and mixology,
Nice.
and looking into that myself to learn a little bit more. So I think that would be pretty rad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
Do you still remember a lot from that course, Trev?
Classic cocktails, and you pick up on the little things. Like I'm a martini guy, where you can pick up some pretty easy flavors with just straight alcohol.
Yeah.
So when you're, the difference between shaken or stirred, if you'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I hated gin for a long time. I must have had some bad gin ages ago, and I hadn't touched gin in a long time because I was like, oh, it tastes like juniper berries and like gross, right? But I had gin, like this Okanagan gin, and I was like completely turned around, and that's all I've been drinking lately is gin and
Wow.
like gin and tonics. Just been crushing gin and tonics.
I can't do it. I cannot do it.
So good.
Yeah, I don't know. I went back to it. Maybe I just acquired the taste in my later years, but holy shit, it's tasty, man.
It's a nice buzz too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anyways, Mike, what are you drinking? Sorry, we're going off the beaten path.
There's no such thing as off the beaten path with this show, but
yeah, that's true.
So I've got Ravens Brewing Co. out of Abbotsford. It's a hot chocolate porter, and it's a 6%. So yeah, I've been basically most of the beers that I've been drinking in the past couple months have been higher percentage, just because I don't want to sit down and drink a 6-pack. I'd rather just have 2 tall boys or whatever and just be, good. So
Flowing.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, most of the stuff that I've had has been 6% to, I think the last thing that I've been on was 9%. So,
wow.
Yeah, but but you need 2 and you're good. I don't have to pound a whole bunch, and
Yeah. Pull down the first one in like 4 gulps, and then you've got a good glow on, and then you can nurse the rest of them.
Exactly. Instead of clearing out a 12-pack in an evening kind of thing.
It's been a long time since I've done that.
That's Ravens Brewery?
It's Ravens Brewing Co.
I've seen that label. I wouldn't have been able to pin it, but I've never seen that. You guys get some cool beers. I don't think we get those. I've never seen anything like that in town.
Yeah, there's some pretty decent ones, but it's tough because there's so many different choices that you don't even know what to grab almost. So I've just been kind of grabbing whatever. I had a Parallel 49 last week, and it was a strong, was it a IPA sour? Some sort of I couldn't do it, man. Like I had to.
You guys and
well, no, it's funny too because up until about a year ago, I hated IPAs, and then I found a couple things from Parallel 49 that Tukes of Hazard. That was the 9% one that I've been doing, and so far that's the only one that I really like. Like I've jumped around a little bit and tried some other ones. I don't know what's going on with that, but like prior to a year ago, I couldn't stand it, and now, I have to get that at least 1 or 2 out of my multi-pack, right? So,
right. And I mean, IPAs can be different too, right? Like the ones on the West Coast here are a little more piney, like the hops are a little more piney.
It's definitely a regional change
to like a real East Coast IPA, but yeah. Whoa.
Yeah,
sour IPA. I don't know. My face is melting.
I will never do a sour again. That was painful.
Yeah, there's more of them coming out now too. It feels like it's taken off a bit, and more breweries are making it. And I don't know, like it's kind of like when all that flavored vodka and stuff started coming out, and all the different flavors, like Bailey's and Kahlua, and like all those different things. Right? It was just like you couldn't just get straight shit anymore. It had to be like caramel and shit like that.
Well, when it comes down to the sours, I wonder if it has something to do with certain food pairings as well. Maybe it's that sort of a level where it,
yeah, maybe.
They were, when I worked at the tap house, they were super popular, especially in the summertime.
Yeah.
So it's sort of like that kind of, I don't know what it is, but if you're like munching down on a bunch of like wings or anything sort of greasy, like it sort of cuts that grease.
That makes sense.
But not for me. Do you guys remember Sourpuss? Mike, you were talking about like,
because
they came out. You guys remember Sourpuss?
Oh yeah, baby.
What, that came out in like 1998. Everyone had those.
Nicole was at this party like back in the day, and I still remember the story because she said that one chick drank nothing but green Sourpuss all night, and then like yacked in the bush, and it was like glow in the fucking dark. Like it was just like ooh, just glowing, right? Like, So
Oh, gross.
yeah, that shit's toxic.
Yeah.
Toxic. I don't know what's
No
in
doubt.
there.
What flavor is glowing green? Is that like
green apple? Yeah, so good. Like it was like cherry, green apple, and like blue.
I think the only one I remember is the green apple and blue. What flavor is blue?
What flavor is ever blue?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know,
I'll have the purple stuff.
Okay, I'll rewind it a little further. Do you guys remember what was that pink cream tequila fucking cream?
Yeah,
Tahiti treat.
No. It.
Are you talking alcoholic?
It came out of the bottle.
Rose.
And it was like
rose
this
gold.
Creamy tequila. What the hell was it called?
Baja Rosa.
Baja Rosa.
Yeah, totally.
Oh, that stuff was gross.
Awful. But they sure sold a lot.
Now, they sure did. It's funny. Now everything is like, it tastes like nothing.
Yeah.
It tastes like water with a little bit of orange peel.
Everybody's boring now.
When I used to do adult parties for DJing, I would bring a couple bottles of Baja Rosa, and usually you'd have ladies table dancing by the end of the night because it was just that kind of drink.
belly button shots and
oh yeah. Trev's in.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, and see, imagine now never experiencing that in the bar, right? Like, imagine that just getting taken away from you, right? All that.
Oh, you remember like test
18 and
test tube
like,
shooters and all that.
Oh yeah.
You know, holsters when the girls would walk around with bottles in their holsters, and then they'd like give you upside down margaritas, and it's crazy.
And then that motherfucker would come by with the flowers, and you'd be like, "Yeah, man, I'll take some flowers.
$10 for one rose,
yeah.
This is gonna work for sure.
Flowers and those fucking glowing balloon things.
Oh yeah,
always the same people walking around the bars trying to sell that shit at 1 a.m.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then you give it to them. They're like, "What am I going to do with this?"
Yeah.
Thanks. I got to carry this home. Bring this in a cab.
Yeah.
Do you think this is a key
on the
to
sidewalk
something?
10 minutes.
Yeah.
Give me the fat Franks at the end of the night, and that's all I need.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Mike Stonairs.
Yeah. Charles Smart Donaires.
Charles Smart was the shit.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Queen Donaire, the original OG on 99th Street. That was a pretty sweet one too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No kidding. Yeah. Are any of these still around?
I
do that once.
You know what?
Yeah.
We did. It's so funny. We were doing a Zoom with these people that Nicole used to work with. And we were like, is Ezzy still around? We got on like old Edmonton bars and we were thinking about Ezzy's. So I just called them up and I just said, and they're like, this is the Edmonton Inn. And I'm like, hey, is Ezzy still around? And she's like, no, it closed down like 5-7 years ago. And then I'm like, did you ever go to Ezzy's? And she's like, no, I didn't go there. And I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, we were just talking about it. We wanted to know. And she's like, okay, yeah. She had she thought it was kind of funny. So
it's funny now. If you were to go back and ask anybody about these places, everyone that's of drinking age now is too young to remember them. So it's for the most part, all of these are just dead to the world now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, even in the Okanagan, like the Green and some of those places that when you first moved there, Mike, you know, it's all changed up now where things aren't the way they used to be.
No, there's really only one place to go. It's Cal Sports basically. And
that place on the highway there, down from the hotel there, one of the hotels, don't they have live music there? I always see them on the billboard. Like
there's one that it used to have like a jazz night or whatever. I never had the opportunity to go, but
right across the street from the Esso. Yeah, that hotel there. Kitty corner of the Petrocan.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I just don't. That would be the Green. That would be the Green. I think that changed names, but even that place, it's not like they had a stage or anything. It was just kind of
Cool.
A place in, the band stands in the middle of the room and then plays for a while. So whatever, there's not much for that, but their selection on tap was always basically garbage. So it was all about Cal because they had, 100 different kind of at least bottles, and you'd have a good 15 different things on tap kind of thing. So well, let's dodge over to the main topic. We've got rock dads. So basically we just want to rock dads, all of us being dads, all of us being dads right now, and just trying to look into how we're raising our kids and how the future generation can kind of hopefully wake this sleeping beast of rock right into, it's not dead, but it's sure not in the mainstream anymore. So
No.
I think it's dead, man.
Whoa, you guys are fucking pissing me off.
Sorry.
It's
okay,
not
why is it dead?
Well, I don't know. I don't even know, were we pressing record when we were talking about Spotify before? Was that on here? Or
it was not.
No,
So
it
let's
was not.
dive into that. We started
okay.
we started hitting the conversation a little hard prior to this recording, and I figure we might as well stop it and save it for whoever wants to listen. So here we go.
Well, we were just talking about how whether or not it's like the streaming has killed, the opportunities to get noticed and an oversaturation of the market and try to find something good. And I was just going to say it goes back to that because it feels like because it's so difficult for me to find something that I like. It can't be because my tastes have changed that much over the years. Like, yes, they probably have, but not that much. And it feels like I'm still into the same music that I used to listen to. So that hasn't changed. So why can't I find anything that I really, really like on a regular basis like I did back in the day?
Well, that's your problem right there, because you haven't changed, but everything else has changed, right?
And now you're sampling 8 seconds at a time.
Exactly. And if songs don't hit you within the first 8 seconds, then it doesn't grab anyone.
But it never
anymore.
was like that, right? Like that wasn't like it. It felt like even if the song kind of sucked at the beginning, you'd still probably sit through the video like on Much Music just to see what you didn't have anything better to do, or you wanted to see what it ended up going, right? And you're like, all right, that was trash. And then the next song would come on, you'd be like, all right, this is pretty good. And then, you'd follow it all the way down. It just feels like that part of discovery doesn't happen anymore, right? Like you don't find it like that. You find it in these little snippets of ways that just kind of flies past your ears and your face, and you're like, no, that sucks. Next, and it just is. I hate this like weeding out process of all this garbage to find something good. I don't know. It's tiring.
Fair enough. Okay, so I think what you're talking about, and I remember those days, and you'd be watching Much Music, and then something amazing would come on, and it would be like striking gold, and then it would be like you would like load up a VHS and just wait for that video to come on again, so you could run and hit record, and like it was like capturing like lightning in a bottle, right?
It was special.
Now it's too much. So like, okay, the reason why I got all like uppity is because I think you can take genres of music which were otherwise really, really, really hard to access. Like back in the day, we were talking about Pantera the other day, and they had their one song on Much Music, and that's sort of what kind of catapulted them, I think, getting some airplay on like MTV Much Music or whatever. But like there's like a bunch of bands that never got any sort of exposure, but now like I can go to like on YouTube and find like Banger TV or whatever, and it's like a bunch of like kids, but they're smart, they're like music journalists, so to speak. It's kind of like a version of Much Music, but it's happening on YouTube now. And
I dig that.
There's all sorts of.
Totally dig that. I like that people are engaging at that way, like you guys are here. B-sides and beers, right? It's good to have the conversation going because everything is listening to us now too. Where all those little hashtags and however all that other shit works, it's now about how people can latch on for that moment, right?
Yeah. Yeah. But again, like, I think you have to know, what you like, and then everything is spliced into all of these like subgenres and genre. This is sort of like a bit of A, B, and C mixed with D, and you're supposed to know what everything is, and it's all very like specific, right? So I get what you're saying, Mike. On the other hand, there's too much. It's almost like a job trying to pay attention to all of this new stuff that's just being like blasted at you, and like 90% of it sounds the same.
It's always really been like that too, for the most part. With you find one or two bands that are awesome, and then everyone else sounds the same after that. Or now you get to the point where you've got all these new up and coming bands that they're very good musicians and they're very proficient at what they do, but they sound and copy the previous generation, or like four generations prior. They're basically stealing their sound and regurgitating it, right? And that's kind of the tough part. And as for finding music, you just kind of have to know where to look. I mean, if there's certain genres of music you like, with myself, it's mostly metal, so I'll go to websites like Metal Injection or Metal Sucks, that kind of thing. And they have their review section. So here's all the albums that are coming out this week. And they've got, 30, 40 plus albums on there every week that you can dig through. And then when you go on a Spotify or whatever you're listening, or whatever platform you're listening to, they always give suggestions. So,
do you find that you spend more time if you go to a website and sample music versus what you would on Spotify?
No, it's about the same. For the most part, I only have X amount of time to search it anyway. So I kind of do a quick peruse through the website, and then another time will be on the Spotify, and you'll find one band that's cool, and you go down to the bottom and it's like, okay, well, you might also like these bands. Or quite often there's playlists, like certain, like a doom metal playlist that pops up, or you'd be listening to something, and as soon as the album finishes, then it goes into some playlist that gives you, it plays songs in that genre of bands you've never heard before. So now I've run out of this album that I'm listening to, but now I'm listening to 10 other bands that I've never heard of, and most of them kick ass.
Totally.
So
totally.
Not saying I would jump on board as super fan for any of those, but you might find one or two, and I've found a few that have been pretty solid. So
that's what I'm saying though, man. Like, it feels like it has actually gotten harder, and it takes more work to do that than it did back in the day.
Well, that's
it came to you.
That's because we don't have the gatekeepers. Before we had the gatekeepers that would say, okay, this is the band that you're going to listen to this month. This is the band.
But we've always found, that's the thing, we always found like these offshoots, even in the 90s, where we were like, okay, well, I like Pearl Jam, but I also like Alice in Chains. Right. And how did I find out about Alice in Chains? By seeing their music video, right? That's how I did it. So I found all these other bands. It was like, it's amazing how it worked back then. And I'm sure that I missed out on lots, and I'm trying to go back and always find those bands, right? There's lots of those where I'm like, these guys came out in 93. Like, I've never heard of these guys before.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, they got 6 albums. And you're like, okay, so like that, you kind of backdraft it a little bit and find that stuff. But it just feels like to sit down and like plow through all of that is just, it feels like more work than it did back 20 years ago.
Well, the big thing too is the medium changed. So now, where we had MTV and Much Music and that, now kids today have Twitch and Twitter and these video game sites where they're watching people play video games, and these guys have these soundtracks going behind them. So now this is where these kids are finding it, right?
Big time.
So it's the medium has changed, right? So I mean, if you were to dive into those, you would pick up a lot of things, I would bet. So
I also like the reviews though. Like, I'll find whatever music site, and I'll look for someone who will review like a couple of albums, tell me what I'm supposed to hear, what, like, it sounds like this, or it's got this kind of like whatever influence, and then I'll check it out on Spotify. Like, because I feel like those algorithms put me in sort of a linear everything sort of sounds the same. And then you're hit with like, you know, I like that spice. I like that something different. And so if I go on, like I mentioned before, Banger TV, I like
Love
that
it.
one for some reason. I'll just put it on, and it's a bunch of smart metal heads, and they'll just talk about a bunch of albums. And like, you know, 2 out of 10 are usually pretty awesome, and the rest, whatever. But at least it's like there seems to be like a mixture within that genre of like different stuff.
Totally.
So
then let's go back to the original question. Do you not think that rock is dead, or do you think that it's still alive because you found 2 out of 10 doing it like that?
I think it's definitely bubbling under the surface, and that's where I like it. I think that's where it fits. That's where it thrives. It's like when it becomes too commercialized, I think I mean, you can take a look at sort of when rock music was in its heyday. You can look at like hair metal and how amazing that was back in the day. And then Nirvana totally like destroyed that. And then it was grunge. And then it's sort of like tapered off. And I think those two genres kind of like really created like not a lot of variety. Like a lot of stuff kind of flew under the radar in like the 80s and 90s. And then the 2000s got like a little weird. But now I think with like YouTube and all of these other like ways to access music, there's like a lot of scenes that never got any like recognition at all. And they finally got like a voice, and they can exist on whatever platform. So like, I don't even know, like I listen to country on the radio because I don't even know what else to listen to on the radio.
Yeah.
But I can go to a weird YouTube channel and I can find something that is no one else I know listens to. Well, maybe except for you guys, but like no one else listens to this type of music that I know of. I definitely, if I was having like people over for dinner, I wouldn't throw on like Ulcerate.
Throw on some power.
Check these guys out.
And,
yeah. But I think it's just there's more. It's more of a flat like environment now. Like there's no giant peaks of like mega rock stars. It's like this weird sort of like place where you can navigate and find little nuggets of awesomeness. But it's maybe rock is dead. Rock is probably dead for like popular you know, I don't even know. People don't listen to the radio anymore.
I don't think it's dead.
So I don't know. It's just different.
I don't think it's dead. Basically, the landscape has changed. And if you look back to the beginning of rock, rock, blues, that the whole the whole basis of it, everything works around, is this fun, right? So you look at old blues, and for the most part, it was fun because it was dancey, and that's what they had in the juke joints, and that's what people were listening to. And then that turned into rock, and that was fun. You know, you want music to go out and party and hang out with people and drink and have conversations, right? Yeah. So then as that goes on, now you go to the, what was the next big thing? Okay, you got glam metal in the 80s, and that was fun. Everybody went out and partied, and that was the big thing. And then grunge kind of hit, and you know, there was still some of that, but for the most part, it was a little more low key. Everybody was kind of sad and depressed, and because that was the time, right? There was still some fun in there, but I mean, when that hit, all the radio hits were pop groups, right? So then the next thing, okay, so then what's the next wave of rock? You've got mid 90s pop punk, which skyrocketed. You got Blink-182, you got bands like that were selling huge arenas, and it was fun. It was just a fun thing to, you know, it's going back to the original. And then it kind of dies down again. And then you've got, you know, the Britney Spears, and you've got the whatever pop was at the time, because that was fun, because rock kind of got boring. And then you go to about 2013, and all the rock bands started getting just too serious, too into themselves, too, you know, making it more of an art than having fun. And that's
great.
It is. But at the same time, this music, most music is, you want to be entertained, right? For the most part, unless you're someone like, I guess, like us, where you're open to a lot more options, but the mainstream, they want to have fun. So as soon as rock stops being fun, they're going to find something else. They're going to look at EDM. They're going to look at what's happening with rap and hip hop and the next generation. And then now you look where there's almost no rock bands because nobody's out there pushing the fun side of things, and there's not a lot of rock bands out there selling themselves like the rap artists are, or the country artists, or, you know, these artists are pushing themselves, and they're pushing a brand, and they're pushing a story that this is fun. Let's get out, let's party, let's go to a huge EDM rave and whatever. It's a blast, right? So that's where rock kind of isn't there. And then you look at a lot of these new rappers and the trip hop guys and the mumble rappers, and most of them don't, they're not that genre of music, but you can tell that they're fans of it. They're wearing t-shirts. They know these bands. They know the old rock bands. They know the old metal bands. And I think that's reintroducing the stuff that we listen to the, I guess, third generation now after us kind of thing. Right. So that's why I don't think it's dead. I think they're going to eventually open doors for these other kids that have never heard that before, that will now explore it like we did and come up with their own version of it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yes, for sure. But I think to define like my definition of dead, I guess kind of goes to what Dane said too, where I don't think we're going to see a mega giant anymore, right? Like, I don't think those guys, it feels like those have passed. Like, I don't see another rock band getting that big that quick in the next, in our kids' generation. Like, it just feels like, it seems like having another rock song on the charts is like a long ways off, if never again, right? Like, there's nothing in there that is any, if you look at the top songs in this world, there's never going to be a rock song, it feels like, on there again. And I don't know, that, I guess that from that side of being dead, there won't be any big giants anymore, but it'll continue to exist. Like you said, it'll just kind of be there. Right.
Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm fine with that. If I'd rather it be there like that than not at all.
Hey,
100%. But yeah,
I think, you might be wrong, Mike, because Nickelback could be writing a song about GameStop as we speak.
Exactly. It's exactly.
They did it, man. You're right. They've already done that. They knew about that 6 months ago, just like coronavirus. They knew.
Well, the big thing with the big thing.
We're uncovering the truth here, everybody.
It all starts at Nickelback. Well, the problem with that is that the biggest fault to that statement is you have to get rid of the legacy bands first. So when you look at all these you look at all these giant tours, how many of the main bill artists are legacy acts, and how many are new bands that should have an opportunity to rise?
Yeah, but dude, we don't see $20 shows anymore, like think of the legacy concerts that we went to, where it was like 10 bands for $10, and the legacy concerts had 20 indie bands playing with them, where you had value for your money. Now you pay $400 for a frickin' ticket, and do you get your value?
That's for an individual show, though. When you're looking at these mega festivals, and that's more so what I'm talking about. When you look at these mega festivals, I get these updates prior to COVID, but now it's slowly trickling in where they're trying to push them out again like they were. But this is where the bands make their money, is these giant European tours where you've got 40, 50 bands on there, or American tours where you've got Knotfest, and you've got similar to like an Ozfest, where
Knotfest is massive too.
Exactly.
Like, you gotta give that some recognition.
And there's a lot of big festivals out there, but you look at the headliners, and out of 60 bands on the bill, over half of them are legacy bands.
That's
So
what people wanna
once,
see.
well, that's the thing. So once,
Yeah.
but you're also stuck in the past. So once they start, I still
But
love
that's rock and roll.
Well, it's rock and roll to us. It's rock and roll to us, but will it be rock and roll to our kids or our kids will be, but our grandkids probably not. And is it rock and roll to the mainstream? Apparently it's not, because it's not in the forefront, right?
Okay, Trev, I got a question for you. You said you have a 16-year-old. Your son's 16.
Sure.
What is he listening to?
He's on the path that Mike was talking about with the video game and the YouTube connections. He's big into anime, so he likes the Japan heavy rock stuff that's in the anime side, but it's all background music for the most part, right? And he doesn't, the kids get exposure from me because I'm still the vinyl guy. I like to sit on Sundays and crush a B-side on the record player or whatever, right? And I actually asked the kids yesterday, knowing that I was coming on the show, and I said, what identifies dad with music to you guys? And my daughter said Beatles first. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, that's cool. And my son's like, I don't know, whatever you make us listen to in the car. So, there's that side of life too, right?
What have you been listening to lately?
Well, I got some, I'm all over the map. Like I was saying to you guys before the show, I guess I'm still the indie guy. And when Mike was talking about, how the evolution of rock has kind of happened, I default to the 90s indie era for a lot of stuff. But I also, know the commercial side, like you guys said, with Pearl Jam. I mean, you guys know my tastes from the time that we spent together, and they really haven't changed. Where I've refined myself is I seek out what those bands are doing now, like you were talking about, and I'm also seeking out remakes or remasters where you get a new perspective, where it's like stereophonic sound, and you're trying to absorb the music from that perspective, looking for good quality.
There you go, man. You know what? I will never forget when you introduced 40 ounces to Freedom. To me, it was like I had heard of Sublime before, but you're like, dude, check out this album. And that was like the one before they got big.
Yeah.
Right? Or was yeah, I remember.
Well,
and I fucking lime-wired that shit like the next day and fucking
good old Napster and LimeWire.
Oh yeah, man.
Got big and then blew up. That's what happened.
Yeah.
Well, and look at what Metallica tried to do at that time.
Right.
When they were taking on that whole thing and put Napster in what they thought was their place, really, they just really showed the world that this is going to be a real problem real quick.
Yep.
Yeah. I honestly think that there's going to be a lot of really crazy shit out there. And like, I've talked about this before on the podcast, on the Halloween one, when I was like 13 or so and like introduced my parents to White Zombie.
Yep.
And I bet you my dad thought I was, whatever. Like he probably thought this is scary. I don't know what my kid's into, but it's not
Stop
good.
worshiping Satan.
Yeah. And I'm sure like my little guy is going to do the same thing, but you know what? Put him in the Jolly Jumper and I put on a whole bunch of different stuff. And you can see like he reacts differently to all of it. He's really into Beck.
Cool.
Yeah, man.
I've got Beck Colors on vinyl, and it's a nice sort of like dancey album.
Totally.
It's a good album. Yeah, I like that album.
He loves it. So, I mean, who knows? his taste might change in the next year or so. It probably will. He also likes Casper baby pants a lot.
And you know, going back to what you said, Mike, about legacy acts, it feels like those guys like will have the next set of legacy acts that'll just continue to keep coming, and they'll always be there, right? Like it'll be like, I don't even know what you would call like a legacy act from our day, but even if you think of like
Foo Fighters,
Radiohead, right? These are still legacy acts that, you know, could still headline Coachella, but they're, you know, we'd still go to see them if Radiohead was headlining Coachella, we'd go, right? If we had tickets, I'd be there, right? But so I don't know. It feels like they'll keep on going, right? Like Drake will be still doing this at age, you know, 40 and talking about God's plan, right?
It comes down to their fans, right? So you look at all the pop punk guys, all the skate punk kids, and then they're following, you know, NoFX and Pennywise and that sort of thing. And then they get to a point where they grow up and you can't, you know, you can still enjoy it for the nostalgia factor, but for the most part, you grow out of Blink 182 fart and dick joke songs, right? So then you go on to something else, to Angels and Airwaves and Boxcar Racer and stuff like that, because you are growing up with these bands. So these other bands are changing. And now you're focused on the past instead of what cool shit's coming out next, right? And when it comes down to it, we're probably the first generation that has been on a same level playing field music wise. You know, you look at our parents, and prior to, you know, if you look at our folks, and they were around before rock and roll. You know, when you watch an interview there and it's talking, okay, well, Lemmy was having a conversation with who the hell was it? Anyways, I'm having a conversation, and he says, I remember before there was rock and roll. So now you fast forward to our generation, we were brought up on that, right? Yeah, he was talking to Henry Rollins, sorry. But you fast forward to our generation where we listen to the music that our folks listen to, like Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, and Deep Purple, and Black Sabbath, and all these other bands that were beforehand, where kids today, they don't, you know, for the most part, they're not going to go back 25, 30 years to what we listen to.
No.
Right? It's like you take the kids now you think of the time frame between the kids that are doing their thing now to our folks' music. That's almost like going back to the 1920s and making them listen to big band jazz, or, you know, it's the same separation in time. Right? Yeah,
but I see like on Instagram, I follow a kid. I don't know what I think it's called, like Callan Shreds or something like that. I think he's 17, but he's been doing it since he's 15, and he's amazing. And he plays like Van Halen. He plays tons of like old Metallica stuff. Like this kid is like into the stuff that we were into when we were his age.
But you look at the mainstream, I guess, is what that comes down to. I 100% agree with you too. There's a lot of kids out there that are still following that path, and they're still, you know, they choose to follow that path and become musicians in that vein and take that. But what are they going to do with it next? Will it be something original, or will it be regurgitating what they've heard? What's that other band that Flip mentioned to me before? He's like, you hear the new Led Zeppelin song? What the hell? Greta Van Fleet? Yeah. So, I mean, now you've got Greta Van Fleet out there, which they're great musicians. They're singer, unreal voice, but there's nothing original about it. And that's the problem with that, is if they would have come out with an album that didn't sound like Led Zeppelin, I could see them doing something cool. But now you've got all these kids that if they are growing in that genre, they're just, you know, are they going to regurgitate it and redo it, or are they going to do something different with it?
Well, I don't know if you guys remember this far back, but like we had conversations at one point about the science behind music and how songs are kind of developed. And we also recently had the conversation about 8-second samples and grabbing people's attention. Do you guys think that the math has changed because of the digital era, where now, you know, it used to be, say, 12 seconds or 20 seconds instead of, or 2 minutes instead of 8 seconds?
Yeah. If you don't grab someone within the first 8 seconds, you're done.
Okay. Yes and no. And like, what an awesome question. And okay, I'm sorry. My mind is like on fire right now. But like, I think right now, the status quo, or what you would call like what is popular in music, is completely, you can take a look at, let's compare it to like modern art. And I think right now it's abstract. There's so much out there. There's so many different things out there. And like, yeah, right now, what you can take a look at as far as like what's on the radio, and you can boil it down to algorithms, and it's becoming smaller and smaller with shorter and shorter attention spans. But I keep going back to like some of the metal that I'm listening to now is like 12 songs are 12 minutes long.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, so this is popular within that mainstream like metal genre, which is massive compared to what it was 20 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's hard to say, but yeah, Trev, for sure. I think there's a computer program out there that's like, okay, say, whatever, I'm dripping 5 times in the next 3 minutes and you're going to have a hit.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
But that comes down to not content, but is it entertaining? Right. And that's what catches the mainstream. If it's not entertaining, because of, you know, kids these days have attention spans measured in nanoseconds because they have all this media thrown at them from every angle. So now you've got all these bands that, you know, they front load their songs to be, okay, instead of starting out with an intro and then a verse and then the chorus, now they're starting off the song with the biggest bang of a chorus and then switching back, right?
Yeah, it's the musical comparison to doing a movie trailer.
Exactly. You have to hit them right now. Otherwise, you're not going to grab them. And sure, maybe you release out of a 5-song EP or I mean, nobody does albums anymore, so it's just singles. But say you're going to do a 5-song EP, your first 2 releases should catch you like right fucking now. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Trev's holding up a picture of our very first EP for Think Not Think, the long lost session.
I still think that we should go after Wolf Mother and see if we can get some royalties off of that song, man.
Yeah.
It sounds so much like our song. It's kind of scary.
Fuck Wolf Mother.
Yeah, but Wolf Mother's got more money than we do. So
Yeah.
I want a piece of that pie. These guys can come out of the woodwork and be like, you know, you've never heard these guys. Usually when they take them to court, you're like, I've never even heard of your song. And this, you know,
Okay,
say we take them to court and let's go to Australia and let's get some fucking bucks, and it's COVID free down there. Let's go do it.
Well, that's going to be tough because they also ripped off Black Sabbath, and they
And
They can get their own lawsuit.
band from the fucking 70s, man.
Exactly.
Every band.
That's going to be a hard sell, but I'm in. Let's do it.
You put those 2 songs back to back, it's kind of scary. And we've got a timestamp on ours, so suck it. I still think it's
like
sounds
that,
a lot
it's
like
like that Bush song that's like that new Bush song that I sent you, that I found that live video, and it sounds just like
Did you say new Bush?
Yeah, there was a new Bush song there a couple months back. I sent you guys a link for it, and it sounds very, very similar to the song Ghost that we put out.
Oh,
That's what, yeah, man.
Like the main riff and the flow of it is so similar. We could sue
Gavin
them.
Rossdale, if you're listening to this,
fuck you,
motherfucker.
not if, when.
Yeah.
what
Fuck
if
you
you
pay me.
Yeah.
All right. I got something that'll like trip you guys out a little bit. I had a Polish guy explain this to me, and it was about movies, but I think it like also pertains a little bit to music as well. And we're talking about storylines in movies and like how they become so simple. and so predictable. And he was like, well, okay, if you want to sell a movie globally, you want a whole bunch of different people who speak different languages to understand it. You know, they may speak, you know, their mother language, but they speak English okay, kind of poorly. You don't want to like complicate things.
Right.
You want them to go see the movie. I think it's the same with music, right? Like when you listen to music today, it's basically just repeating something catchy, right? Like I'm this or I'm that. I'm fucking this. I'm this. I'm this. And it's easy, so everyone on the fucking planet can sing along to it. And I think there's like that's kind of smart.
Yep.
You know?
You're selling a feeling and you're selling an emotion. Not a lyric anymore.
To an extent.
And it only takes one, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, you get the money song and you know, maybe back in the day when you have big dreams of grandeur and you're telling yourself that you'd like to sell a solid album. Now, you know, in my 40s, I'm like, one hit wonder maybe isn't such a bad thing.
Yep.
You know, take the money and run and do what I want to do or buy the shit that I want to buy and carry on.
No doubt.
Unless you're making hip hop, I don't think that's going to happen. So,
it's hey, buddy, don't ever close that door, okay?
Yep.
Doesn't it feel weird though? I totally agree with you. I don't want it to be like that, but like it feels like I said, it feels like that rock song being number one on the charts is like so far off, and it feels really weird and awkward kind of these days, like for that to happen. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah. And it actually seems like the only way it will happen is with the collaboration. And it's going to be like, who's really domineering in this situation? You know, Cardi B with Metallica.
Well, that's why you've got Lady Gaga with Metallica. You know, Metallica played that well. Not that they'll, you know, they're not already the biggest metal band that will ever be, but now you're opening that genre to Lady Gaga fans. Or you've got Machine Gun Kelly that's, you know, he's wearing t-shirts and playing guitar in songs. Or you've got Post Malone that is, you know, he did this song with Ozzy Osbourne and he plays guitar and
the Chili's
and all that thing. I mean, he opens it up and, you know, I don't enjoy his music personally, but I can see how he's widening things, you know, beyond that genre that he's in. So it's, I may not like what they're doing, but they're definitely bringing the past into the forefront again. And hopefully that will morph back into something where people are rock will be in a mainstream again.
Well, and you know, there's other things happening right now too, guys. I think with shit like the WWE and how they're looking at the entertainment business, I think rock and roll has a good opportunity to be part of that kind of stuff too, right? Because you still need that big explosion, you know, the Hulk Hogan moments where rock and roll really fits, you know, power chords and big drums and let's do this. And, you know, hockey, let's go to CBC, man. Let's say Hockey Night in Canada. I still like hearing the intermission songs playing Metallica and even Nickelback and, you know, let's build them up and win some games.
Yep. It's an entertainment business. So rock has to be entertaining again. And once that happens, it'll come back.
What's it going to take? That's the question, I guess.
Okay, Mike, what do your girls listen to?
Mine? Yeah. They still they'll listen to whatever I listen to, and like we talk about it all the time, how I'm like, you guys can listen to whatever you want. Like if you want to listen to country, you can listen to country. Like you can do that, you know. And they're like, okay, yeah, like maybe, but they never do, right? And they always just kind of go back to it. And they're still huge Beatles fans, like massive, but they've been listening to Wings nonstop and like going deep into like the relationship of Yoko Ono and how she messed this whole thing up in their minds, and, like, and talking to my kids about what broke up the Beatles is kind of the coolest thing ever, right? Like having a
I bet.
Yeah, like they had never really heard of this person before, and they're like, how did the Beatles break up? And they just kind of going from there, right? And I'm like, well, you guys can make your own interpretations of how you think that all went down, right? I'm not telling you anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, they check it out, and I kind of show them, some different stuff, and then they listen to songs, and they're like, what's this song about? Like, how does this ballad of John and Yoko, what's this all about? So then I have to like look it up, and then I learn about it too at the same time, right? So they listen to all that, but like, usually what we're like doing on podcasts is what I'll have on, right? So it's been nothing but vulgar display of power for the last like month, right? Like all the time, right? But they have listened to it because you know what, like lyrically, it's actually not that bad. Like they can't make out a lot of it, and there's not actually a lot of swearing, right? So it's
some content little issues, but for the most part, it's not as vulgar display of power.
Yeah, exactly, right? It's fairly tame, and a 7-year-old can't make out what Phil Anselmo's singing or screaming about, right? So
but you never know when that magic moment is going to happen where they guess what they're saying, and then it's like, you bring this,
I'm fucking broken. Yeah. Like I don't play that kind of stuff, but
at the same time, they're, what eldest now is 7, right? So where were we at 7, 8, 9, 10? By the time we were 10, we were hearing all that stuff anyway, right? So
for sure. I mean, and they've got like kids Spotify. They've got a kids Spotify that I threw on their iPad that they use for school, right? So they listen to that.
Yeah.
But it's very like curated and tame, right?
Yeah.
And there's not much on there, but they just tend to like go to pop music or go to country or go to anything else but rock. And it's kind of funny that way, maybe just because of the influences, right? But so they've been listening to a ton of Beatles, ton of Wings. They love Stones. They've been listening to Stones nonstop. They've gone through all of my records. They've already got their favorite, like all that kind of stuff, right? And they got on a big Doors kick. They were listening to all my Doors records, so they just went through all of that, right? Like just stuff like that. They've been kind of going through some classics, which is again like kind of what we're talking about. They've just gone back to that because they haven't gone to the new vinyl that I have in there, right? Like I've got some new records in there and they just haven't sought it out, right? They just haven't, because you can tell which ones look new in that collection too, right?
Yeah.
The spine's in perfect condition. It's like,
but
and they're also not delving in. They're not at the age where they're delving into the internet world where they're able to find their own thing too. I mean, every generation wants to have their own band, right? For the most part, when you go back and sure, it's awesome that we love Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, but at the same time, we wanted our own music like Pantera and, NoFX and whatever was out there in our little lane. So the old stuff was cool, but we wanted our own, people our age that we connect with, right?
Yeah.
I think it's so nice that they have the ability and like first through like your own collection of music to get some sort of understanding, like a musical canon. Like this is what everything has been based upon, or are these like, the Beatles, Stones, and stuff like that. But then there's going to come a time when their little friend is going to come up to them and be like, did you like check out the latest whatever?
Perfect. Then show it to me, and I want to know, I want to see it, and I want to hear it, and then maybe I'll like it, right? Like it's like a new, bring it into me. Like I want to see it, right?
Yeah.
So I encourage that, and I think that there'll still be times where like your dad listening to White Zombie for the first time, it's gonna be like, no, right? What's wrong with you, right? There'll be that, but. And there must be like that for you, Trev. There must be some songs that he's listened to that you're like, holy cow, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, it has and it hasn't. I mean, we've had our moments where I think kids, they want to find their own, like you guys just said. And for me, top 40 isn't a bad thing when you're trying to manage everything else in the world. But at the same time, I'm exposing them to indie music still. And you guys asked what my playlist was, USS, Grandson, stuff like that. That is a little bit more commercial, but at the same time, I think there's some clever ideas there that are fun to play with, right?
No doubt. Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, who were those two? USS and who?
Grandson.
Sweet, man. I've never heard of them. I'm gonna check them out.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, check out the song "Dirty."
Dirty. I'm riding dirty. not like that.
It's funny, and we do default to the '90s hip hop shit with stuff like that too, right? I do have some Hypnotize on the playlist right now. I'm not gonna lie. Me and Biggie are still down, right?
Oh man, we were working out to Fitty. Fitty sent the other day.
Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
Oh man,
I got that on vinyl.
Go show it. You do?
Oh yeah, man. Get Rich or Die Trying, and it's got like a holographic kind of cover. So like when you move it back and forth, it looks like the glass is like the shattered glass is moving.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Well,
That's how I found out my record player was too slow, because I put that album on and I'm like, this doesn't feel normal. So then, I downloaded that app, threw it on there, and I'm like, it's like 2 BPMs off. So just like turn the little screw in the bottom, bang on, done.
Dude, I was trying to find that app. Is it the Audio Technics app, or is it something different?
I can't remember. It was like I downloaded it once and I pitched it as soon as I got it because I never needed it again. But
right. It's like check your turntable.
Yeah, like
whatever.
.com. Yeah, and you just throw it on your turntable and just put your phone on there and then press play, and it just like figures it out and then gives you the number of what BPMs it is and what it's supposed to be. You just go online. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the easiest fix ever. But that's how I found out. I listened to Get Rich or Die Trying on my vinyl. And I was like, it doesn't feel the same.
That is cool, man. I actually don't have any hip hop vinyl, and I'm surprised because I would dig some old school '90s hip hop.
Wow.
Yep.
I've got Alcoholics.
Oh yeah,
the first Alcoholics out. It is so fucking good. That shit's meant for vinyl.
Nice.
Some Public Enemy, like yeah.
The only other one I've got a Beastie Boys. I've got Ill Communication. Like I found it in this pawn shop. That's the only other one that I have though for hip hop. I don't think I have any other ones.
But we're gonna have to have a 50 episode. I got a buddy of mine at work that's an encyclopedia on the shit, and the past 2 or 3 years I've gone back and I've found pretty well every mixtape and every B-side and every G Unit thing and every side offering, and there's a lot of really good stuff once you get past the radio shit.
Oh yeah,
if you cut out all the radio shit, man, there's some solid bars in that, man. It's unreal. So I've gotten pretty hard into that, but I'd like to have him on because it would be I think that would be a solid one too. So
yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That 50 Cent, he's got a new song out actually. That's again through the new releases on Spotify. That's like every Friday I kind of like get super pumped.
I love
up.
that.
Yeah, it's like Tuesday release day back in the day. So yeah, just find that. But he's got a new song on there too. It's pretty good. But yeah, that's another way I guess too that I find stuff is through that. And again, the algorithm that just knows kind of what I like, but then I'm like, what else am I missing? Like what did it not give me? Right. So that's part of it.
Well, I'm pretty fired up for my boys to get to an age where they can show me shit too. Cause I mean, right now they're getting a pretty good base going where they're 2 and 4 right now, which is early, but all they ever want to listen to is Misfits and Rammstein. And they're at the point where every time we get in the car, they have to hear Misfits, and my 4-year-old knows all the words to most of the songs. This is all post Danzig. I haven't got him into that yet. I'll wait till he's a teenager to get him into that. But the 90s stuff. I mean, he knows word for word. And I'll be downstairs in my studio area, and he'll want me to hook up the microphone to the interface there. And he stands there and I put the song on and he sings along with it. And I got them a little Pearl drum kit, and it's not like a toy drum kit. It's an actual drum kit, but for kids. So it's just all shrunk, and they love coming down here and playing it all the time. And it's it's unreal to see that they actually have some rhythm and time to it. Like I can show them one thing and they've got it.
Oh, cool.
It's not,
Awesome,
yeah,
man.
it's pretty neat. So they're definitely on that path, and they see me playing guitar all the time. So my 4-year-old's asking, can I hold your guitar? Can I, so I want to try and get him some sort of a mini thing, so at least he can hold. But every time they see it, they run up to
Ukulele,
it, strum it, and it's awesome. Yeah, no, I got him a ukulele, but I got it too early, so they've already smashed it. But
Oh,
but I'm gonna wait another year or so until Zach's hands get a little bit bigger, and then I'll get him something. But every time I come downstairs, they run to the drums, and that's what they want to do. It's amazing. So I think yeah. So.
Oh man, I'm sorry. This is completely off topic, but you said Rammstein.
Mm-hmm.
There's this guy in Eindhoven. He was an older dude, and he lived right beside a scrapyard. He built his house out of like pieces of the scrapyard, and he was a musician, and he went out and taught kids how to make instruments out of basically waste material.
Cool.
And like, yeah, super brilliant dude. Gert.
Bless you.
But we called him Pizza. we called him Pizza. We called him Pizza Man because he had like a stone-fired pizza oven in his backyard. Right. And every Friday we'd go to Pizza Man's place, and you just give him like a donation, and you could just like dive in, grab some dough, make a pizza. He'd have a beer fridge in the backyard, and you just whatever party. And in this backyard, he had a table with a red button on it. And like there would be like tunes playing, but whenever you hit that red button, it would play a Rammstein song.
Sweet.
Cool.
Like, yeah.
That's badass.
He loved that band. Yeah,
That's awesome.
Anyway, I thought I'd throw that in
Might
there.
as well.
That's a good question. There's the next podcast, like who's on your red list or your red button? Who
Your
do you
red
put on your
button.
red button?
Make a note.
Yeah, if you could press it one time, who would you want to come on that second? That's. Don't say
It's
now.
kind
You
of
got to
like
wait now for the next podcast.
Yep.
That's kind of like
It's
lethal
kinda like
injection, right?
Fuck, that got dark quick.
Well, if you're gonna die and you get a chance to listen to your favorite tune, you hit the red
Exactly.
button, and you get
Yep. What do you
to
want?
go out, go for it.
Yeah, you got 10 minutes. What are you listening to
man.
before you go out?
Could be Jesus Built My Hot Rod. You never know.
Yep.
Oh, so good.
Ding ding dang, ding along, ding dong. Yep.
Oh, so good.
One of the things too with my kids, they went a little bit different musical paths with school band. So my son got into the trombone, and he's really liked it. And his instructors, both at the junior high and the high school level, are quite renowned. And they have quite a eclectic style on the jazz side that creates quite a few different opportunities for them. Like they do every second year, they do a travel year, and it's usually to a major competition internationally. And they came like in Canada, I think we've won gold 6 or 7 times.
Oh, wow.
So they get that kind of exposure. And sometimes I feel, as the parent outside looking in, I don't want to influence that while he's able to take advantage of how fast he's learning. You know what I mean? Like it blew my mind, like how quickly they pick up instruments when they really start showing a knack for it.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like, Dane, you and I were in band for, like, we were in junior high, we were in high school, right? Like, we were always in the same band, too. And I think that, like, it taught us a lot about, obviously, music overall, but, like, it was just something different to play with a group of people all at the same time and to do it.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that kind of taught us that, too, where we were, like, we could mess around in the band room anytime we wanted, and we would, right? Just bring the drum kit into the practice room and bring your guitar or whatever, and we do it all the time. So it was a lot of jumping off points, I think, for us in that situation. So I get that, right? And I know even from teaching band that there's lots of kids that just need that, right? And they need to come in and be able to play and be able to, you know, just have that in their life. And it's kind of neat seeing that. And I kind of miss that part of it, but it's, yeah, I think we just kind of cut our teeth in band class a little bit, right? Like even in junior high to start, and then, you know, it teaches you a lot, I think, and you probably don't even know it till later on.
Well, did you guys did you guys start coffee sandwich in band?
No,
Kev,
no, because Kev was never in band.
Kev, yeah, and he was never in there, so I don't even know how it kind of even started up or even fired up, but he was never in there with us. I think he just had a guitar, and like he had this guitar. I remember the guitar case was the amp. It was like built in. And
brilliant.
Yeah, it was. And it was exactly what we needed at that point, right? In that time. But yeah, it was, you know, I found some old pictures. I asked Nicole to grab them, but I'll show you guys. Some of them are like back to coffee sandwich days. And like even that, you remember that cabinet, Dane, that you had? And then we ended up, it had that like rug kind of material on the front. And then we ended up painting it. The speaker. Yeah. I got pictures of that like in my basement.
Oh
yeah.
Man.
And like playing your Kramer bass like with that.
Awesome.
That
And that was amazing that your parents let us just like go downstairs, and we were turned up to like 7. But that's fucking loud, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, I know it was loud when we showed up first. When I showed up first and then dragged Trev into the basement. We were loud, and they let us do that shit. That was awesome. Your pops let us do that.
It was
shit.
insane. Yeah.
It was. That's like, I gotta, you know, say that for sure. Like, you know, even all of our parents really like they supported it, right?
Yep.
But it was, they were kind of always there, but always, you know, it kind of like they were all part of it too, right? At the same time, but
but your dad was super supportive.
Oh yeah.
Like, kind of like looping back to the whole like dad rock thing. Like, your dad was, he would come to shows and like
all the time, man,
full into
that was the thing with your pops, Flip, and mine. They were both living vicariously through us. They both wanted that, you know, they were both music fans, and they wanted to be musicians, and they wanted to do that deep down in, you know, in heart, but for whatever reason,
well, even you look at that. Yeah, exactly. And you look at that Tin Pan Alley show. I don't know if you guys have seen that on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Right?
Oh yeah, your dad is just like
he's just smoking, right?
Out,
just smoking away, just puffing away, and just loving it, right?
Yeah.
It's funny, like,
oh my god,
that was a good show too. That was a classic. I don't know how many people were there, but it was a good show.
Well, and like you said, you know, there was a whole support network there at the time where, for us, I think it just eased us into what we were trying to achieve, and to have our parents rocking out there, it was like, oh, okay, well, maybe we're doing something good and something a little bad.
Yeah.
We're still cool, right?
Yeah. It came, you know, they gave us the jump start. I mean, for the most part, as soon as I was like 11 or 12, and I said I wanted to start learning guitar, and I wanted to take lessons, and you know, I had some petty little nothing allowance, but all I wanted to do was put that into music lessons. And then, you know, we had a cheap guitar and a cheap guitar amp and a cheap bass in the house at all times. And I would just pick that up. And it got to the point where as soon as I asked to start pursuing lessons for, you know, I only took lessons for maybe 2 or 3 years or something. But as soon as that happened, my pops was all gung ho and making sure that I had, you know, upgrading gear, and, you know, we'd go to the music store every Saturday. We'd do the run from Axe Music to Mother's Music to Long McQuaid to Avenue. We'd always end up on Avenue. It was every Saturday we did this. So
Lilo's, man, don't forget Lilo's.
We did the Lilo's, but there was never anything of interest.
Oh, you guys spin around there, anyway. Just for sure.
It was
Avenue was like the upper crust.
Oh, that's
like
top of the line.
Amps right at the front door.
Well, the thing with Avenue is it was so full of amazing, rare, one-off guitars and basses that you could, and amps, and you know, there was all these little custom boutique things that. It's funny now, I look back being such a gearhead, and I search back to all these things that I could have bought at Avenue for relatively cheap that are now wicked expensive.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I should have bought this little 20-watt Zinke head, or this one-off Gibson whatever, and that's where I bought my gold top Paul Reed Smith. So I got that used. It was 3 years old used, but it was brand new. Like the guy bought it. He special ordered at the time. He got it. He probably played it once, and it stayed in the case for the 3 years until he traded it in for something else, and then I grabbed it. But they had that kind of stuff in there and it was so full, and it was such a small store that you basically had to shimmy sideways to get through the 2 aisles that they had. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they had a pretty big tryout room in the back though too. Like that
That's
took up
true.
a big
The
part
acoustic
of it
room,
too,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had a huge selection on pedals there too, which was always nice.
Unreal.
Right? You could,
All the little boutique stuff, like I was talking about, the super rare fuzzes that are, going for 1,000 plus now that I could have bought for $150 back then or whatever.
oh yeah, or less, right?
Or less, yeah. So, but I mean,
Lidl's just had that old stuff, that like kind of vintage stuff that you would just be like, oh, I've never seen one of these things before. Like I only have seen this in pictures and
behind the glass when you walk
couldn't
in.
touch any of them.
Fuck
yeah.
It was all
the only good stuff they had was behind the glass. The rest of it was kind of shit. But you would go in there and you would drool on the super rare Gibson whatever that they had. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you would buy your strings, and like that was the store where like we
buy my Ernie balls, and no, because I always got that at Avenue or Axe. But
holy cow, boys! I'll be right back.
Yeah, I just remember walking upstairs to the drum loft in Mother's actually.
Mother's was epic drums.
Yeah. Mother's was great though, right? Like, the drum shop was so good, and it was so big too, right? Like when they expanded that and they had all that walk around the upper level, it was awesome, right? And you could try out anything. They had everything was just pretty much open there, right? But I bought so much stuff from there, tons. But Axe was good though too. Like Axe was a fun walk around too, right? Like they had a lot of weird stuff in there, but a lot of it was a different selection, right? Like every single store that you think about, it's got a different feel to it, right? And
and you went to it for that feel too, right? It was like a counterculture where you there were certain things you went to Long and McQuaid for, like you guys were just saying, I bought this guy and I bought my drumsticks over at this guy, and
oh yeah, mix it up, right? Like, and then if you were going down along McQuaid, it would be like, oh well, you're going downtown, like you're going like where else are you going to there, right? Like there's nothing else down in that area for music stores, so like, oh, it's a special Saturday, man. I'm going along McQuaid too.
That was always, like I said, every Saturday morning, that was the first stop because you had to make sure you got parking. Yeah. You had to make sure you had parking.
The parking was awful. The parking was
had parking, but Long McQuaid didn't. So you had to show up just before they opened to get parking in the back. And then you go and you kill an hour there. Yeah. You kill an hour in there, and then you did the rounds that way. So
I used to go there after Denny's, when you just get shittered downtown and then hang out in Denny's for 2 hours and then go to Long and McQuaid at 9 a.m. to work off your hangover.
Oh, wow. We got one here. I'm there every weekend.
Denny's?
Oh, really?
Long and McQuaid.
Fucking love Denny's. You're getting old when you're going there every Saturday morning to Denny's.
Exactly.
No, we got a Shitties, but we don't got a Denny's.
But you go down to the Long McQuaid there. Is it a big one there? Or?
I wouldn't say it's big, and I wouldn't say that. I've got like a preamp tube that's been on order for like a month and a half.
Shit.
So I wouldn't say that.
Go online, man. I told you the tube store. Go to the tube store.
Nah, this is something that I didn't want. I wanted something that was like a Philips or like somewhat of a reputable brand. I didn't want something that was like shit.
They have good stuff.
I thought
they got all top of the line tubes, man. Do it. You could have had it by now.
Now I know. Now I know.
Asked me.
Don't back order from Long McQuaid, because every time I go in there, like, oh, dude, maybe the 6th of
Nope.
February, but
Nope.
that means third week of February.
Hey, here's some promotion. Go to tubestore.com and buy your tubes there.
It's too late now. I've got all my tubes sitting here right now. I'm just waiting for this.
We'll cancel it and you'll have it in 3 days. Do it.
He's supporting local, I guess. That's it.
I don't fucking wait now that it's internet time. I give stores I give stores a chance, and if it takes them, over 2 weeks to get something, I've already moved on to something else, or I found it on Amazon, or I found it on tubestore.com or whatever.
But it gives me an excuse to pull over, put on my mask, and just like walk into a shop and look at a bunch of guitars and a bunch of pedals.
You can still do that.
And drool. And then I go to the guy, I'm like, is my tube in? And he's like, dude,
no.
Yeah.
You should have went online.
And I'll just do it the same thing next week.
Oh, gosh. At least he'd try to, water you down a little bit and hand you a beer when you walk in and be like, dude, it's still not here, but I got you a beer.
Yeah.
No, there's disinfectant, which is like hooked up to like a hi-hat.
Oh, nice.
Which is awesome. And I like hi-hat my like sanitizer.
That's brilliant.
Like,
I've never seen that or heard of that, but that's fantastic. You guys set that up in my house right up where I got it right now. The hand pump's so lame. You know what I mean? Yeah. I need a hi-hat pedal.
That's right.
This hand pump shit. Gotta pick it up and squeeze it out. No. My freezer's got a foot pedal, and that's the coolest thing about my freezer. I press on I press on the foot pedal. I'm looking at it right now. Press on the foot pedal, and it just like slowly pops open. It's like an upright freezer. I don't know. I didn't know it had a foot pedal, and I'm like, what is this gigantic silver thing? And then I looked at it, like, this is a foot pedal? Fantastic. Boom.
You know what the first thing that popped into my mind when you said that was? Transformers, more than me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know what it's capable of. It buzzes a lot, too, so I don't know. It's kind of like growls. I'm not sure what it is, but it could be a transformer. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, exactly. But that's a good idea.
Yeah. All right, Mike. It seems like we're like way off topic here. I don't know. I just came back from the bathroom. What's your opinion on a Proco Rat distortion pedal?
They are awesome in certain amps, and it all depends on what you want to use it for. There's too many factors. I've used them on some rigs, and I've hated them. And I put them through certain Marshalls, and they sound awesome, and I've put them through certain Fenders, and they sound like shit. And it all depends on what you want.
So through the DeVille, through the DeVille, and I want to push it with a tube screamer. I've got a tube screamer.
For the most part, if you're going distortion, I always like amp distortion over pedal distortion. But tube screamer, you can never go wrong with the tube screamer.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. I got the mini.
Awesome. I like that one. Yeah. Well, I still have my old Ibanez TS9 that I got when I was 12. It works, but now the main engage button, for some reason, there's something clip inside that's disconnected, so I can't turn it on anymore, but I got to take it in and get it fixed. Yeah. And then I bought an 808, which was cool. Ibanez 808.
They're like expensive.
It was a reissue that I bought, and it was over $200. But fortunately, I was able to sell it for exactly the price that I bought it for like 2 years prior. But now for overdrives, I use a company called KDHK. So it's Kirk Hammett and another guitar tech guy that started this business. And they have a pedal. It's kind of like a tube screamer, but it's called a Ghoul Screamer. So I bought the Ghoul. I love that. Totally. I bought the Ghoul Junior, and it has the same volume, drive, or gain and treble as a regular tube screamer, but it's got these other switches for different voicings and body and stuff. It's killer.
Right.
It's killer.
Wow. So that sounds advanced.
But the thing is I mean, you have to be able to play around with a distortion pedal before you buy it, or before, if they can bring these things in, or if you can buy them used. and save yourself a couple bucks just to get an idea.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's really tough because you initially think you could buy something secondhand, but the secondhand stuff is going for almost as much as the new stuff. Yeah. And I feel like I'm like 15 all over again because I'm just starting.
Yeah.
So I've got like the Fender amp. I've got the tube screamer.
You've got a killer amp and a killer tube screamer. Yep.
Right. And so I'm like, next step is obviously like a big muff. And I'm like, wait a second, let's take a look at distortion pedals and see, like, maybe this is like another podcast.
We're going to have this as another podcast. I've actually got it on the list. So, but
I was looking at that Proco rat, and I'm like, it looks awesome, but I don't know how good it's going to sound through the pedal.
They can be killer pedals. It all depends on, like, what sound do you want?
Yeah,
I don't know. Okay. I'm like learning that all over. I'm like, I thought I wanted like a metal sound, and I'm really getting into like a lot of Stevie Ray Vaughan stuff because I'm just interested in learning like blues patterns now. And so I don't want the real compressed like metal sounding distortion. I want to like an overdrive that really it like accentuates that amp sound, right?
Well, what I would recommend to start with at that point is either getting into a digital, either on your computer with amp models, like a Line 6, Helix, whatever, or they have these little boxes. Once again, Line 6 makes it. It's called a Line 6 Stomp. So it's a small pedal. It's got like three buttons on it. You can hook it into your computer or your amp, and it has amp models. It has pedal models. It has speaker cabinet models, that sort of thing. And I think that before you start spending $200-$300 on or up on pedals, I mean the rabbit hole goes deep, right? But get into a digital thing just so you get an understanding of the sound that you want, and then invest in the real life pedals, because they're super close, but there is a difference where the rat in the digital realm sounds really close, but in real life there is a difference. But at least this will get you on a path to knowing what you want.
I like your advice there too, man, because you can pony up too. Like sometimes you want to double up, where you'd use like a Boss DS1 with a big muff and get that really bright sound, right? Where it's like, single coil madness, and you're like, okay, this is that's what I want. And with those kind of platforms, you have every distortion pedal in front of you. So it's just a matter of, fucking with how they're connecting.
Yeah. You can't, like, I feel like when I go into like a long McQuaid or whatever, I feel like I got to go in and out. I can't just like kick back and like try out a bunch of pedals. I feel like I got to get my business done and get the fuck out. So, yeah.
Well, let me know what sound you're going for, because like I've been on this.
I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. Like, again, like I thought I was going for a metal sound, but like you said, Trev, I like a single coil, like raw, like I don't know. I always thought I was a Gibson guy, but now that I'm really understanding guitars and pickups and all of the stuff, the geeky stuff that goes along with it, I'm a single coil.
There's room for all of it.
I was just gonna say ZZ Top too, buddy.
There's room for all of it, and then there's room for other things too, and there's gear everywhere, and you can start off at whatever point you want and go as insane as you want. And so I mean, it comes down to I've been buying, selling, trading, losing money, gaining money on things since I was like 12 years old. So if you're looking for gear, just let me know what you want, and I'll guide you. I'll be your Sherpa. I'll be your Sherpa in the your travels of gear.
Hey, that guitar just reminded me of something, actually, when we were talking about legends of rock and kind of how those legacy bands display. Do you think that a band like Tool, where they have a huge visual side, is going to open up some doors because of how accessible, LED and a lot of that technology is now.
To a point, it comes down to, though, they have the money to do it, right? they have the money to put on those shows and do that, where most people won't. So that sort of makes things. I mean, they can influence the art side of things, but unless you have the money to throw on a multi-million-dollar tour, it's tough to do. But I've seen smaller bands, like you look at Devin Townsend, and when he goes on tour, he's got these big light screens, and it's all LED sheets that you kind of roll down, and you have all your background displays and whatnot. But it is, I guess, making it easier to a point because the technology is getting smaller. But it's still a little ways off, I think, unless you got some coin to throw at it.
Yeah, and the only thing, I guess, for me is that, think of back in the day when we would go to a venue like Reds and they had the technology for other things. Mm-hmm. Being able to tie in with that, projects that you guys are working on right now where you have a video element.
Yep.
Now that accessibility is kind of cool too, right?
Oh, definitely.
Technology too is like 100-inch TV used to be a big thing. That you were only in projection then. Now you can buy that shit in LED or plasma or whatever, right? And it's just, I think that might be part of the saving grace too.
Definitely. But now everything comes down to internet media, right? So you don't have to have a giant fancy show live on, because most people are just going to see what you put out on your YouTubes or that sort of thing. So it's a different angle where you can do green screens and make these really cool videos. But
I think you still need a big show. Like, I think that people would still pay for that, right? Like,
I'm down with that too.
Yeah. Right. Like, I think that there's still an appetite for a big show and a big production.
Oh yeah.
Right? Entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like still bigger is better when it comes to live shows, but that's all they got now, right? Like, it's just, from what I take it, unless you're getting billions and billions of streams, you're not making any money off of streaming. So like that's why these legacy acts are still around, because they're like, I can get everybody from age 8 to 80 to come to my show. Yeah. Right? Like, all those people are you've been to those shows, right? Those legacy act shows where there's little kids walking around with grandpas, and it's just like all of those guys bought your ticket, right? Every one of those guys bought your tickets, and you just see like every walk of life, right? Yeah, that's there, as opposed to like, some more specific shows that you would never see that population there, right? It just wouldn't show up. So there's that side of it, which is appealing to those like Fleetwood Mac kind of bands where you can get everybody from, to just buy, and that's what they need, right? Because nobody's buying Rumors anymore on CD or Rumors on record. It's just not happening. So that's all they got.
Yeah. But who do you see as being, I think we already talked about this right now. Like, who are the legacy bands?
Well, it comes down to you. Well, it all depends on the genre too. So, I mean, when I'm looking at the big headliners for the past 3 years of any metal fest, it's Korn, it's Rob Zombie. Well, there was Rob Zombie and Marilyn Manson did a thing. Slayer before they shut it down. But there's you look at Iron Maiden and like a lot of these old 70s and 80s bands are still doing things and having these big bills, right?
Shit, the Stones are still playing, man. Like,
no shit.
Right? Yeah. Like,
and it's exciting. It's exciting to be a part of that. If like there's this, like, again, Mike, you're saying like your girls are talking about the Beatles and all of the history behind that, and to be able to experience that.
Oh, it's exciting.
let's
like,
just like
I was like, I wish I could experience that for the first time. Like, and just seeing them take it all in
Right?
is so cool, right? To just never know who these people are. I didn't even know what they look like until they saw the record. And then, you know, I was like, holy cow, like you guys have never even seen these guys before. They don't even know what they look like, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's different. It's cool seeing them explore it and discover it like in real time almost, right? Like that's the cool part.
But it's cool too, because with the
kidding.
Beatles, it was the same with us. We were 5, 6, 7 when we first heard the Beatles, right? And they were already long gone. I mean, Lennon died the day before I was born. So when you put that into perspective, it's like seeing your kids. It's like seeing us when we were first introduced to the Beatles.
Yeah.
So, and you look at Led
there's
Zeppelin, they were done before, just after we were born. So like 81, 82. What did Coda
they
come
weren't
out in
really making much
81,
then.
I think? So, and Zeppelin was already done by what, Houses of the Holy. So
yeah, that's
basically,
that's the last thing. You know, there's still some stuff on like Into the Outdoor that I still like. Like
it's
there's
good,
some
but they were
stuff-
done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a different kind of feel to it. Those last albums, like Presence, is a different kind of album, right? Like let's throw that on the other day, but just it's not the same. It's not the same.
No, but now it's now you're seeing your kids getting into this music that we were getting into around their age. So that's a really cool projection, I guess, to look at, right? So it's like, okay, our influences are going to push them into another level, whether and it's kind of like how our folks projected us somewhere else. And that's where I'm really enjoying this dad phase, old man rock dad thing. Cause I just I want to get them to dig this stuff. And also at the same time, it's like, I don't want to show them certain bands too soon, because then you're going to wreck that. Like they have to be a certain age for a certain album, or they have to be a certain age for a certain movie, or just to grasp it. Right. So.
Yeah. And it's also self-exploration for my kids right now, right? Because they're not really going on the internet to find that out. So they literally will go to the next, like I've got all those pumped into my Discogs account.
Nice.
So, and then on the app, you just shake the phone and it comes up randomly with a different album. So they're like,
what's this called?
Discogs.
Yeah.
If you want any information on any album ever, go to Discogs. It's unreal. The database is ridiculous.
Yeah, it's everything you've like. There's no albums in there that did not show up on there, and like it's not like I got a ton of rare stuff, but some things are like, this is a Canadian only version of this thing that like, but it's on there, right? Somebody's got it. The barcode's there. So like one spring break, I just went through my entire collection and cataloged the whole thing, and then I've just been keeping it up. So now.
Whoa.
Yeah, so they just shake the phone and it comes up with a random album and then they go find it. So it's like a test for alphabetical order too, because I got them all alphabetized. So I'm like, even today, I'm like, they want to listen to Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. So I'm like, all right, well, they're like, we went to C, but we can't find it in C. I'm like, well, do you know how to go like alphabetical order? So like,
do you know the Dewey Decimal System?
Yeah.
Bedmass.
Conan the Librarian.
Oh, UHF, a classic, man. I haven't watched that in ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Trev, you're frozen, but we can hear you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you've been.
Is it getting better at all?
Well, we can still see your ugly
must be
mug,
those-
but that's it.
I know the feeling. I have to look at that guy in the morning every day. So.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah. No, life doesn't slow down, does it?
No. So is
Well,
there?
when's the last time we actually did? When's the last time the four of us were together in the same virtual or real room? Like that's. I was trying to think of that before tonight, and I couldn't.
Probably
put my finger on it.
2003.
You think that long?
Yeah.
Pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, man.
Do we want to find a good ending to this, because we're about an hour and 46 minutes, and then we can shut her down and dive into some other shit.
Kids, don't be stupid. Listen to Black Sabbath.
Okay, so let's come up with an ending, and then we can.
This is the ending. We're pressing stop.
Shit. Okay. I keep waiting because we had the Metallica one, and we ended up with that whole Mariah Carey rant that you guys were on, and then I was able to edit it to a very humorous spot at the end, and our ending is drifting, so there's no fucking pounder.
We'll edit this shit out. That's for
fucking
sure.
A. So I want to finish this off, and then we can get to other fucking stories and shit. So.
Hey kids, don't be stupid. Listen to Black Sabbath. I thought I already did that.
Up with hope, down with dope.
Up with hope, down with dope.
Get off my lawn, damn kids.
All right. How about this? It's great to be a dad. It's great to see you guys.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and I'm thanks for having me on the show, guys. I think it's been awesome to see, 20 years later and in the making, and rock on.
Beauty.
Keep going. Be the best dads you can be.
Fuck yeah. Thanks for coming on. Peace.
Yeah, man.
So good to see you.
Peace.